Thank you for tuning in to another episode of One More Story. Just a quick programming note, parents, if you'd like to skip past the interview and go straight to the first story, you can find it at the 7-minute, 45-second mark. And please be sure to like, subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on all the social media platforms at One More Story Podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in, and enjoy tonight's episode. Welcome to One More Story. My guest tonight is Sam Riegel. Sam is the voice of... Sam, you've done so many voices. You started with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right?
I was Donatello on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon many years ago, and I've done video games and cartoon voices, and I'm on The Bad Batch, which is a Star Wars cartoon, and I'm on a show on Prime Video called The Legend of Vox Machina that's not appropriate for children.
Well, but that came from Critical Role, right?
It did. I played Dungeons and Dragons with a group of my friends, and it's called Critical Role, and you can watch us play Dungeons and Dragons every week.
So I remember that. So this was years ago, going over to brunch at your house, and your wife, Quinn, was sort of teasing you about this Thursday night thing that you would just do with your buddies, and you would just go and play Dungeons and Dragons. And now look what it has become.
It's become a really cool thing that we've been doing it now for 8 years. We play Dungeons and Dragons every Thursday night, and people watch us. We make up stories and we have adventures, and we pretend that we're heroes. And folks love the stories and the characters, and they love to watch along. And it's fun. It's a fun thing that I get to do with my friends, and it's also now something that I do for work, and it's great.
That's all you could ask for. Right? Then that's the goal.
That's the goal, is to do something that you love.
Yeah, because then it's not work.
And I get to do make-em-ups and make-believes, and I get to.
So you're perfect. You're perfect for this. You are. No pressure.
I hope so.
No pressure.
No pressure.
So let me ask you this. So first of all, I have a burning question, because I did do a little bit of research just to, obviously we've known each other for many, many years, but I am not familiar with Jack lingo. And can you tell me who Jack Lingo is? Because on your wiki page, and I know not everything you read on Wikipedia is 100% factual, but I'm curious.
Jack Lingo is in my younger days of doing voiceover work, I was sometimes credited as Jack Lingo for some of the shows that I did. I just thought that it was a fun, cool name. It sounds to me like a secret agent name. Lingo, Jack Lingo. But it turns out that it's actually a guy. There is a real Jack Lingo in Delaware.
Oh boy.
He sells real estate. And so now I think he's a secret real estate agent.
So was there a lawsuit and you had to stop using it?
There's no lawsuit.
Okay,
it was just something that we did for fun on a few projects.
Very nice.
But I just think it's a funny name.
It is. I quite like it. I wish I had a secret agent name. Maybe I'll think of one. Well, since this is a bedtime story for children podcast, I'm curious, what's your bedtime routine? How do you wind things down for yourself, for your kids?
Well, for the kids, I have 2 kids, and we usually... Now they both read, so I used to read them stories at night, and sometimes I still do. We've been reading The Hobbit a little bit, and some Harry Potter books and stuff. But now they mainly just read by themselves for a while. Then I turn off the lights and I turn on the Galaxy Stars machine, and they like me to stay in their room while they fall asleep. So I usually do like a dad thing where while they're falling asleep, I lie down on their floor and I do like yoga stretches for like 15 or 20 minutes. Stretch out my back.
Nice.
Stretch out my legs. maybe do some sit-ups and push-ups, dad stuff. And
Nice.
the kids just like to know that I'm in the room while they fall asleep. But in the old days, I would read them lots of stories at bedtime, and sometimes I would even make up some stories that they would help me with. My dad, when I was a kid, he made up these stories called F. Allen Rocks. Whenever we would be driving on a highway, we would sometimes you pass signs that say fallen rocks, that you're supposed to watch out because you're on a mountain or something, or near a mountain, and there could be fallen rocks in the street, so watch out. But he would always point to those signs and say, that's not fallen rocks. That is actually a sign that says F. Allen Rocks. And F. Allen Rocks was a monster that lived in the mountains, but not a scary monster. The grown-ups thought he was scary, but the kids knew that he was just a sweet, sweet green man that was cast out from society. And the kids would help F. Allen Rocks go on adventures and stuff. And my dad would tell me these stories. And so now sometimes I tell these stories to my kids, and I let them help me come up with how the story goes or what the kids do to solve the problem. Usually they involve Sheriff Sam, that's me, who is the sheriff of this town, and he is real dumb. And he's got two kids, and the two kids help him get out of any problem that he gets in with the help of F. Allen Rocks.
I love that.
So it's pretty fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think you're well suited and well prepared now.
Yeah.
But shall we get started with the story duel?
Yeah. So you're going to talk, and then I talk, and then you talk.
And then we just see what happens.
Amazing.
I know. It'll be fun. So these are all random words that my 9-year-old has written out and cut up and put in a hat. And I'm going to draw one, and we will see what happens. Here we go. All right. The word, well, it's actually 2 words, but is $100. Not $100, but we're going to just assume that's $100. Mm-hmm. So the word we are looking for is $100. Once upon a time, there was a young girl, and she really wanted to be a gymnast, right? She was extremely athletic. She could do, amazing leg exercises and splits and things, but she had an issue with her arms. And the issue with her arms was they were made of toothpicks. And it made it very difficult for tumbling. Her fingers were toothpicks, her arms were toothpicks, but she was extremely agile. And there was a procedure that she knew she could get done. She'd talk to her parents about this, and the only problem is that it cost $100. And at the time, her parents were sort of struggling to make ends meet. She had other brothers and sisters. One of her brothers was a very, very skilled mathematician, and so they put a lot of money into, getting him ahead in the math program, and there were extra schools and things. They were spending money on him. But she felt, because she was the only child with toothpicks for arms and fingers, that she should probably get more special attention than her brilliant brother. So she came up with a plan.
Her plan was a little complicated, but she thought she could pull it off. The gymnast girl's name was Maria, and Maria really wanted to keep competing in gymnastics. She really thought she had a shot winning a gold medal in the parallel bars, but you really need stronger arms than toothpicks to support your weight on the parallel bars and do all those spins and flips and turns. So she wanted to go get this procedure that would make her toothpick arms, it wouldn't change them, because she loved the way that she looked. She loved the way that she was sort of built, but it would make her toothpick arms stronger. It would sort of reinforce the wood of her arms and the wood of her fingers to be not petrified that it couldn't move, but just stronger, and build up the wood so that it wouldn't splinter or break. So she had a plan. She needed this $100. And so she thought she would do what she does best. She was very athletic and limber, and she was very flexible from doing gymnastics. So she thought she could enter a dance competition. It was a 48-hour dance competition. And if you could dance for 48 straight hours without taking a break, I mean, you could take a break to pee, but that's about it. And if you could get through this 48-hour dance competition, the prize was $125. So she would have enough for the procedure and $25 left over to buy a video game, maybe take her parents out to lunch, maybe even buy a new calculator for her brother who loved math. The night of the competition came, and there were 10 competitors, all of whom were strong dancers. Some were older than her, some were big, strong dudes, some were very flexible ballroom dancers. So she was getting a little bit nervous, but Maria needed this money, and she needed to make her dreams come true. The competition began.
And she was super nervous. I mean, her heart was beating in her head. Her little toothpick fingers were shaking. And her dad looked over, and he could see she was nervous. He could see the fear in her face, and when her toothpick fingers would shake, they would rattle, and they would make a wood rattle noise. And thank you. And it was a little bit off-putting, a little bit distracting, and she instantly felt embarrassed. You know, she loved having these toothpick hands and these toothpick arms because it did make her different. It made her unique. But there were moments where she just wanted it to stop. And so her father pulled her aside, and he said, "Marie, you need to just take a breath, and you need to exhale, and then you need to rediscover the dancer inside you, because everyone is born with a dancer inside, but not everybody can access that dancer inside. And you know, I have other children, and they do other things, and you know, Billy with his math thing, he can't dance. He's got 2 left feet. And Roger, your other brother, is a lovely kid, but if you've ever seen him try a 2-step, it's just not pretty. And you have that talent. You have that talent within you, and it's in your heart, and it's in your legs. So don't forget the power in your legs, and don't forget how special you are with your toothpick arms and your toothpick fingers. Because I know for a fact, I mean, I'm not a professional dancer, but I've seen a lot of movies. Footloose was really big when I was growing up, and I've watched Chicago, lovely picture, wonderful stage show. And I know that jazz hands are the thing that can put you over the top. It could be a difference maker, and you can win that $125 with the greatest, most unique jazz hands ever, because no one in the history of dance has ever done jazz hands with toothpick fingers. And you are special, and you are going to be a legend, and you are going to take all these other dancers down tonight. So get out there and find that dancer inside. So she took a deep breath. She shook out her little toothpick fingers. She gave her dad a hug, and she walked out onto that stage.
And the music began. They started slow, some slow songs to warm everybody up. The 10 dancers were dancing, just a little mildly at first, getting their hips limber, getting their knees bent, getting into the flow of the music. And there was a big crowd gathered to watch these 10 dancers go as long as they could go. The DJ, after about an hour or two, kicked up the music into more upbeat stuff, hip-hop and pop, and the dancers were pushed to more challenging routines but all of them were looking pretty strong. The audience was taking pictures and still really into it, clapping along with the music. Maria saw her dad in the audience cheering her on. But as that first night lingered on, and they danced all evening, all the way through the night to midnight, all the way till sunrise the next morning, 3 of the dancers, of the 10 dancers, they didn't make it. One of them got calluses on his feet and had to drop out. The other was really hungry, and so she left to go get some chicken. And a third dancer just got distracted. Distracted by all the lights and noise and dancing, and she forgot to dance for a few minutes, and so she was disqualified. But Maria was still going strong. She noticed that her strongest competition was going to be from a young boy named Hansel. He had incredible grace on the dance floor, but also he had incredible leg muscles. They were so large that they bulged out of any regular pants, and he had to wear special sweatpants that billowed out almost looked like reverse mushrooms because they were containing his huge dance muscles. Maria was really scared by this, but she kept listening to the words of her father replay in her head. She had a dancer inside of her. She had power in her legs. She just needed to breathe, to exhale. And so that's just what she kept doing all the way during the competition. The next day was a bitterly hard day. Lots of dancing, lots of different songs. The DJ had run out of his own music and was starting to just play random songs from the radio. Some of them were commercials and old ballet music, opera, stuff that you really can't even dance to, polka music, strange hold music. At one point, the DJ called customer service and just left the hold music playing for about 3 hours. It was very hard to dance to, but Maria persevered. And by the end of the first 24 hours, there was only 5 dancers left, and she was one of them. But she wasn't sure that she was going to make it the whole way.
But she remembered what her father said about the dancer inside. And she knew that these other dancers were talented. They obviously had stamina, but she had stamina too. Young Hansel, at a certain point, was starting to fade even. His billowy MC hammer pants were now just drenched in sweat, and they stuck to his knees, and it made it cumbersome for his fast leg work that he liked to do. And there was another dancer named Sylvia, and she was a tour de force. I mean, she was like nothing you've ever seen. She could bend her body in ways that defied physics, and so Maria knew that the competition was stiff, but she knew that if she could outlast them, she would get what she wanted, which is the fortification, not petrification, of of her limbs. And she would have strong wooden limbs without compromising her individuality, because that was important to her. It was important to her dad. She didn't want to be like the rest of them. She didn't want to blend in. She wanted to shine. And so she looked over at her father, who was in the corner of the audience. And the audience by now was kind of fading, right? The DJ was fast asleep. It was now some playlist of elevator music mixed with EDM, and it was all very confusing, and the beats were on top of other beats, and it was just a mess. It was like a fever dream almost. But the kids had to keep dancing, and it was starting to get cruel. I mean, they would throw bananas at the children, just to give them some sustenance, because there are laws about children and making sure that they're fed and well taken care of, and it was starting to get a little extreme. Even the judges were zoning out. 2 of them were asleep. One had run out for pizza for himself, not for the kids. But she looked over in the corner, and she saw her dad, and he had a great big grin on his face, and he just held out his hands and wiggled his little human fingers up in her direction. And she knew obviously what that was. She knew that it was time to just shut it all down, and she was going to bring out the toothpick jazz hands, and she was going to steal the show, and she was going to get that $125. And just when she was getting ready to flash those toothpick jazz hands, the music changed and a song came on.
That song, of course, was Dynamite by BTS. A wonderful K-pop song that everyone knows and loves. But it's very fast-paced, and it takes a lot of energy to dance through. Maria looked at the clock and realized that they had all been dancing for 47 hours and 57 minutes. This was the last song, and there was 3 dancers left. Herself, Hansel, with his giant mushroom muscles, and Sylvia, the tour de force dancer. And this was the fastest song that they had danced to in quite some time. But Hansel wasn't going to go down without a fight. Even though he was fading, he had a secret weapon. There was all sorts of decorations for this competition. Streamers, glitter, balloons. Hansel pulled down some of the balloons that had previously been held up by helium, but over the course of 2 days of dancing, they had faded and they had sort of drooped down towards the stage. He grabbed the balloons, and because none of the judges were really paying attention, 2 were asleep, 1 was out on a pizza run, they didn't see that he sort of kicked the balloons towards Sylvia. Sylvia was spinning and dancing to the glorious K-pop sounds of BTS, didn't see the balloons, tripped over them, and fell off the stage with a kaboom. She wasn't injured, but she was so tired from dancing for 2 days that she just fell right asleep. She was instantly out of the competition, leaving only 2, Hansel and Maria. And Hansel wasn't done with his cheating. There was only 1 minute left in the competition, and he gathered all the balloons that he possibly could and surrounded Maria with them, trying to trip her up, to confuse her, to distract her from the block rockin' beats of BTS. But she remembered what her father had said. Use those jazz hands. Those jazz hands. And the balloons that were swarming her body, she jazz-handed them. But because she has toothpicks for fingers, pop, 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 pop. She was popping the balloons left and right with her jazz hands. Hansel couldn't believe her ingenuity, her powers. He threw a whole dozen balloons at her to try to trip up her feet, but pop, 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 pop. She just popped them away like they were nothing, standing before her before him in all her glory. Maria was an unstoppable force, and she leveled her finger at him, pointing her jagged, sharp toothpick finger at him, daring him to make a move, to try something else. But at this point, Hansel knew he was beat. He couldn't overcome her power, her strength, her wooden strength. So he crumbled and fell in a puddle, collapsed on the stage, exhausted, and he forfeited the match to clearly the champion dancer of them all, Maria, the girl with toothpick hands. Victory was hers. Her father, who had stayed up the whole 2 days with her, ran up and gave her a hug. Everyone cheered, everyone who was still awake. The judges woke up and they saw what had happened and they said,
"Congratulations, Maria. You are the 48-hour dance champion." And they handed her an oversized check for $125. And she looked at it and she said, "What bank is going to take this thing? It's gigantic. Can you Venmo me, or is there an easier way?" And they explained to her that was just a prop for visuals, and it was just something that they did. I don't know. It's just a tradition. But she would get that money. She got the money. She had the procedure done, and she got the strongest toothpick arms and fingers out of it. And she was so grateful for the opportunity, and she rediscovered that dancer inside. And she eventually, when she got older, ended up opening a dance studio just for young boys and girls who had limbs that were made of non-limb material. And she inspired generations to come, and there are statues and monuments in her honor, all because she stayed true to herself and she listened to the dancer inside.
What a great little story.
Yeah.
With a heartwarming message. And to think she inspired all these non-traditional limbed dancers. There could be a boy with lamps for arms, or someone who has walkie-talkies for hands, and all these people get to be great dancers.
We should have had a few of them in the dance competition, but
that's true. We blew it.
Let's get into your solo story, Sam.
Oh, okay.
You got one more in you.
Okay.
These are, again, randomly selected words from a hat, and your word is Jellybeans.
Jellybeans.
We are looking for a story about Jellybeans.
As all stories start, this one also starts. Once upon a time, there was a family of Jellybeans. The Bean family. And there was 2 dads, Butterscotch and Praline. And they had 3 kids, Cherry, Chocolate, and Barf. And Butterscotch, Praline, Cherry, and Chocolate were very popular Jellybeans around Candyland. Everyone loved them when they would come walking or rolling down the street and say hello. And they were very popular down at the old at the chocolate factory. Sometimes they would go and go see a movie down at the Cotton Candy Cinema, and all the other candy. The candy bars loved them a lot. Sometimes the dads would go to a candy bar and have a couple drinks. But they were very popular. But their youngest child, Barf, he didn't have a lot of friends. The kids in school, the gumdrops, they made fun of him for being stinky. The cool kids, you know, the candy corns, they made fun of Barf because his color was sort of this greenish olive. He had some chunks in him. Wasn't too appealing. And some of the kids would tease him because, he tasted like Barf. He didn't know what to do. And Barf wanted so badly to taste good, to seem like an appealing candy that everyone would want. But he didn't know how. He decided to go on a quest. He asked his dads for some pocket change. They gave him some chocolate coins to go take a bus and go find himself, go find his sweetness. They knew that he was a sweet boy, a really sweet kid, even though, he might have tasted like Barf. He was still sweet inside. So they gave him some chocolate coins and told him to go out and find himself. So he went on a trip. He went on a trip all the way to another town called Sugarcanesburg. And in Sugarcanesburg, everything was made of sugar. There was a sugar subway system. There was sugar buildings. The glass was made of sugar. It was very easy to break. They would brush their teeth with sugar toothpaste, which doesn't seem like it would work, but they actually had no cavities at all. And Barf thought that maybe some of these sugar people could make him feel sweeter. He met a young girl there. Her name was Sugar, coincidentally enough, and she was just the sweetest thing in the world. And Barf asked Sugar, how do I become sweet like you? That's all I want in life. And Sugar said, well, the secret to being sweet is to always have a smile on your face. And Barf said, well, that doesn't make sense. I've been smiling. I've tried smiling and it doesn't make me sweet. I look like Barf. I smell like Barf. I taste like Barf. And Sugar said, now, honey, you're just not smiling from your heart. What makes you happy? And Barf thought about it long and hard, and Barf said, well, when I'm with my family, I'm happy. When we go to the cotton candy cinema and see our favorite movies, that's always fun. When I'm with my siblings and we're playing catch the hard candy outside, we throw hard candies to each other, that's always fun. One time, my brother broke his Jellybean foot, and he had to walk around with a candy cane for a week, and we were all laughing about how silly he looked, and well, that was fun too. I guess, yeah, when I'm with my family, that's when I feel my happiest. But when they walk down the street, everybody loves them, and nobody pays any attention to me. Well, Sugar thought long and hard about this, and she said, well, then it seems to me that you shouldn't think about what other people think. You should just worry about what your family thinks. And that'll make you happy. And when you're happy, you'll smile. And when you smile, you'll be just as sweet as anyone else. And Barf thanked Sugar for her sage advice and said, well, can I pay you for your advice? Here, I've got 100 grand, Bar. And she said, no, I don't need any payment for this. I just do this for the Snickers, for the laughs. It just brings me almond joy, you know? And Barf thanked her for her time, and he shook her sugary hand, and he skittled away back to his town where he's from. And he ran back. He took the bus back to his town of York, and he ran back home to his Jellybean family, and he threw open the door, and he said, Dads, I'm home. And he just starburst through the door, and he ran up to his dads, and he said, I'm home. I found out what makes me happiest in life. It's you guys, my family. And my siblings. And he gave them all a hug, and he asked if they minded that he smelled and tasted and looked like Barf. And his dads looked at each other, and they looked at their son, and they said, no, of course not. We love you just the way you are. It doesn't matter if you taste good or smell good. You're part of our candy family, and you belong here in Candyland. And they all hugged each other, and Barf smiled so big that something in him changed. He still smelled like Barf, but it was a sweeter smelling Barf than before. And he still looked like puke, but it was a good looking puke. If you've seen puke in your life, this was the best looking puke you've ever seen. The color of green was very appetizing. And he asked if someone could just give him a little lick and a taste to see if he still tasted real bad. And so his family gave him a little lick just on his little Jellybean hand, and they said, you know what, son? You taste really good. Yeah, you taste fantastic now. Still tastes like vomit, but it has a strange yumminess to it. A milky way to it that's just so pleasant. So from then on, as they would walk around Candyland, he was still the same Barf, still had the same name, but he carried himself with confidence, with respect, and with sweetness, and always gave a smile to everyone he met, even if they looked at him funny, and even if they made stinky faces when he walked by. He was confident in himself and always wore a smile, and even though his name was Barf, he was the sweetest candy that there was. The end.
Well done, Sam. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a A fun Jellybean tale.
It was. It was. That was awesome, man. I appreciate it, and hopefully kids are asleep.
I hope so.
Yeah. And if parents are still listening, they can check out The Legend of Vox Machina.
Yeah, that's our show on Prime Video. 2 seasons are out. A third is on its way. And it's not appropriate for children, but parents can watch and tell them about it afterwards.
Thanks for coming on and helping us weave some tales of Jellybean children and toothpick-limbed dancers.
Yay.
Because the world needs more Jellybean children and toothpick-limbed dancers.
That's true.
It'd be a more interesting place, right?
I agree.